Hello, my name is John Rose, and today is June 2nd, 2019. And that date's important to me because yesterday was my 29th retirement anniversary. That's right. I retired 29 years ago at the age of 36 years of age when I finally found something I love to do. That's all you got to do to retire, folks. As soon as you do something you love, it's no longer work, right? That's all it takes. And yet, how many people have been able to do that? It's not easy to do, is it? There's only one way to do it in my book. You got to understand what the hero's journey is all about. Because then when you join the hero's journey, you're doing something you love. You're doing something that brings joy and fulfillment and meaning to your life. It's what happened to me 29 years ago when I found the most valuable knowledge in the world. And I knew that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. This is how people find what took me 36 years to find. And again, from that moment on, I've been really hard at it, but it hasn't been work to me. I've been loving every minute of it. And you can do the same thing. The problem is, again, most people don't know what this knowledge is. It's been kept from us. That's why it took me 36 years to find it. What's up, puppers? They're over here. Now, we can make work a little bit better, a little bit easier, and I talk about that quite a bit. I've done a dozen videos on this personality test called Personalysis. It's a management tool to make sure you put the right people in the right job so they like what they're doing. So we can find work that we like to do that's relative to our personality, but we're never going to love it like we will when we find something that makes a huge difference in our own lives and in the lives of everything and everyone around us. That's what the hero's journey is all about. It's why it's the most common story that's told in every culture. It's passed on from one generation to the next. The hero's journey. By definition, a hero is a person who can solve a problem or problems that no one else can solve. The sad reality of our existence is most of us don't know that most of our problems are self-inflicted and that we are the heroes. We keep expecting something to come around the corner, that white knight on the horse, to come save the day. No, go run in the bathroom, look in the mirror. You are your own hero. You are the only one who can change what you're doing. And most of us have been taught the wrong way to live. And when we find this knowledge and when we apply it, we start the hero's journey, because that's the second step on the hero's journey. First one is you have the ears to hear. Hopefully you're still listening to me. Second step is you got to accept this mission. Prove to yourself that you can solve your own problems. And when you do that, you can retire early, because now you can spend the rest of your life doing something you love. And you won't have to worry about saving all this money to pay for all your medical expenses, as most people do when they retire. I'll be hitting 65 here within a couple weeks. I have not had one medical expense my entire adult life. I've not been sick one day of my life. Except for emergencies. I've had a couple of those where I had to run into the ER. But otherwise, being sick, having a down day, it hasn't existed. And that's why I stopped working 29 years ago, because what I do every day brings me so much joy and passion that I work hard, I put in a lot of time, but I don't look at it as work. Got some gnats flying around me. That's the difference. And this is the sad reality, again, that most of us are subjected to. Most of us have no idea how to live. We end up going through life having about 5 colds a year. We end up working our butt off, and retire at the age I'm at now to expect maybe another dozen years of our life, and they're going to be the worst time of our life. That's what happens to most people. The last 10 years or so of people's lives are miserable. The quality of life is worthless. And yet, at the age of 65, I can't even, or close to it, I can't even relate to my age. I feel in better shape now than I was when I was 25. And I've always been in decent shape. And then when I was 28, I really got in shape. and stayed in shape ever since, but I've always been active. I've always been an athlete. I've always been slender and fit to an extent. But when I was 25, I was nothing like I am today, some 40 years later. And sure, exercise is huge. I do exercise a lot, but it's not hard exercise. I do very easy exercises. I don't bike real hard like I used to. But the main thing I've done is I've learned how important my food is. Because when we don't eat the right food, that's what changes everything about our lives. So that's where it begins. That's where it starts. That's where the real hero's journey is all about. We got to understand how to satisfy all of our needs, and the biggest mistake we're making, the one need we're not satisfying, is eating our natural diet, the food we're biologically adapted to eat. As all other species on this planet, we have a species-specific diet, just like they do. But as I've mentioned many times in my videos, that only works in an ideal world, and the world is less than ideal, to say the least. We might need to modify that species-specific diet slightly. And I won't go into any details in this video, but I'll put links down below to other videos I've done where I explain this in much more detail. A good place to start is watch Healing Secrets Revealed, where I explain how the body deals with being in a less than ideal situation and how it deals with it. And that disease is a bodily process. It's not an entity that's attacking us. That's why this knowledge is so powerful. It helps us realize that most of our problems are self-inflicted. And that makes us the hero, simply by changing what we do. And when you do this, when you get on the hero's journey, and you test this idea as time has come, that's when life gets exciting. That's when your new job is on the hero's journey. Forget the things you do to have to pay the bills for now. Look at this as your new job. But it's not a job, I love it. Exactly. But this is where you want to put your attention. This is where you want to put your time. Nothing else is more important on this planet than getting us out of the hell we're in. And it's got to be a bottom-up movement. Not all of us are going to be a trim tab, going to be one of those first of the three ways of heroes it's going to take to get out of this hole. But I know I've thought about this too long, that if we don't reach this tipping point, if we don't reach that 100th monkey, where all of us start to change, nothing's really going to change. We're never going to be able to put a dent in all the serious problems that we have as a species unless we collectively realize what we have to do. It's sort of like this bell of behavior. For you guys who know anything about statistics, a bell-shaped curve, we can represent a lot of data in this bell-shaped curve. The most common example is when we use IQ, where 96% of us are in the middle of this bell. 2% are above 130, they're the geniuses, and 2% are below 80, these are the mentally challenged people. Well, we have a bell of behavior also, folks, and it's based on how well we satisfy our needs, especially our diet. And this has been reflected by philosophers throughout history. They know that what we eat affects how we behave. The best example of that is to read The Ethics of Diet by Howard Williams. I talk about this book all the time. 85 of some of the greatest thinkers of all time shared what they witnessed based on diet and behavior. It's obvious once you see this. So, we can't cut the edges of the bell off on this bell-shaped curve. The bell itself has to change. And what you're going to find is there are going to be people that are on one half of the bell or the other half. They're going to be reflecting better behavior and reflecting worse behavior. Those real close to the psychopaths on this edge of the bell down at the very end, they can kind of relate to those guys. The rest of us, we can't even begin to think how these sick people think and how they're controlling us. And I go into this on my other videos in much more detail. I won't go into it in this one. But it's important to understand that this whole bell has to change. We got to reach a tipping point. Whatever that number is, 10% or so. We got to be the rudder on the rudder, the trim tabs to society, so we can steer our ship this other direction away from that iceberg. So we can get the majority of us, the second wave of heroes, to jump on board. And then ultimately, that third wave will come on and complete the connection, where we'll all realize that we are We are what we eat. We'll all realize that the more we give, the more we receive. And we'll never figure that out unless we correct the fall of mankind. Remember, 5 main mistakes. The first one is what started it all in motion. And the seminar I have corrects these 5 main mistakes on a temporary basis so we can see what we're missing. This is the hero's journey. This is the mission we have. We've got to correct these 5 mistakes on a permanent basis ultimately. It's hard to do because we don't know what we're missing. We're not going to think it's a fair trade. But when you take a solid food vacation, that's what my seminar is. When you do this and you go for the appropriate length of time, you finally realize how to retire early. You realize that there's another existence out there on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or communally, as I like to say. And that life's been an illusion. We waste our time doing things we don't like and we don't love. Some of us are lucky enough, we find a job that suits our personality, so we like doing that kind of work, but do you really love doing that thing? Is that what you want to do on your day off? I am so passionate about what I do, and I love to come out here in nature and escape and be part of nature more than anything. And yet, when I get engrossed on a topic on my computer doing some research on something, I have a hard time pulling myself away because I love doing it. And guess how much money I'm getting paid to do it? Not a darn penny. Because I don't care about money. That's not what matters. Sure, I have to pay bills, and I do a little bit of consulting on the side, but I intentionally don't sell any products, no equipment, no machines. I want to take money out of the equation to help you guys realize it's not about the money. It's about getting healthy. And some of you guys might have to end up figuring out some way to make money on this. Who knows? So that you can say, I retired at an early age because I found a way to stop selling something that was bad. I'm going to sell something that's good. There's a lot of good healthy products we can sell if that's what you have to do to pay the bills. Personally, I like the approach that if you have less desires, you don't need as much. He who has little and wants less is richer than he who has a lot and wants more. That's my philosophy of life. I don't have any materialistic desires that I want to go out and accumulate a bunch of things that I don't want. That's not exciting to me. What's exciting for me is to fulfill my retirement dreams that I started 29 years ago. And that is to spread this knowledge that I found 29 years ago. The most valuable knowledge in the world. It's about the hero's journey, folks. It's about putting passion in your life. It's about finding something you love to do so that you don't have to waste most of your day doing something you don't like, which is what most of us are doing. So there's a lot of ways to retire early. Simplest way, change your values. Quit trying to accumulate so much. Realize that you don't need a fortune to retire if you're not going to be sick. And that you can live a long, productive life and be busy like I am, not thinking about making money. Instead, making life better for everyone you see. And the day you guys can do that, I guarantee you, you're in for a treat.